What a day. The stock market really sold off today, and the NASDAQ went down 3.43%. The S&P sold off, and it went down 3%, and the Dow Jones was down 2.6%. The Russell, made up of smaller companies, was down 3.33%. It was a real big sell-off day, and all things considered, I'm glad it rose from the time it opened. It opened way down, and it really did recover, I think, on the NASDAQ about 2 full percentage points. So the sell-off was really created, I think last week we had a sell-off and we had plenty of fear. And going into this week, when Japan reported that their stock market was really tanking, it had a big influence on our stock market. The other big influence is Warren Buffett sold half his stake in Apple. I think that's a pretty big influence, and I think that's what led to some of the sell-off. So overall, it was just a really active day of selling, and it was quite interesting. It's good to see if people are on the live stream. I appreciate you joining. Best of, very nice to see you. And the one thing I wanted to point out, I saw this chart earlier and I found it amazing. The last time we were in such high volatility, the only time it was higher was around the COVID era. And that's understandable. COVID was a big pandemic. Many people died, and it was a pretty significant event. And now we're dealing with volatility that surpassed anything in 2023. And if you recall, 2022 was quite a bad year. Although the VIX stayed pretty high most of the time, the VIX that we're measuring right now, which is the volatility index, the fear gauge, is above any level in 2022. I'm hoping that it's not the same outcome, which is in 2022, the S&P went down about 25%. The NASDAQ went down more than 30%. So I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping it's just there's a lot of fear currently and it's going to subside. Let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that's the case. Looks like Mike, the dividend investor guy. Thanks for joining. It was a great day. I hope we have another one tomorrow, but it's going to come. It's going to come a time when my cash will dry up and we need to be a short-term event. I agree with you that these lower prices open up the opportunity to buy stocks. And I'll talk about a few. And I'd love to hear, here's a question for everyone on the live stream. Tell me about the stocks you bought today. And I'd really like to hear about a stock that dropped to a buy level and you decided to buy. Maybe you hadn't been in that position before and now you're in that stock. That'd be interesting to hear. So thanks for joining, Mike, and thanks for the comment. So again, the VIX is the fear gauge, and it's pretty high. Hopefully it doesn't stay there, but we'll see. Now, something that's encouraging is, again, during the day, the market did come back. You see how the S&P opened fairly low, 5120. I think a lot of people sold in the pre-market and just the market opened, at much lower levels. And then it rose throughout the day. I think that's kind of a silver lining in this giant cloud, which is, well, people bought into that weakness. And I'll talk about some of the shares that I bought in a little bit. So that's encouraging. As we head into tomorrow's trading, we might have a relief rally. Palantir is a pretty good example. Palantir is not the biggest company on the stock market. It's roughly a $51 billion company. They announced their earnings after the close and the stock is rallying. Wow, a stock's rallying in tech, 16%. So that's a sign. That's a good sign. It's not a very, big company. I don't know that it's going to influence many other companies, but it's a good data point. It's a positive data point. Now, today, the market had several earnings. I know that Berkshire Hathaway has kind of a unique way of announcing their earnings. A lot of the information they announced came out on Saturday, including that Warren Buffett's selling off his stake in In Apple, he sold about half of it. He has a giant pile of cash that he's beginning to manage. But we have other companies like Realty Income, which is a REIT, CSX, which is a railroad, and a bunch of little companies that Tyson Foods had a good earnings from what I heard. Tomorrow, Amgen's a big life sciences company that could move things around, especially on the healthcare side. Caterpillar, big industrial, that can move things around. Uber is classified as an industrial. I'm really going to look forward to Uber because I'm an Uber stockholder. Duke Energy, we'll see how they do. Airbnb, I'm a big Airbnb stockholder. I'm looking forward to that to see how well the travel industry is doing. Now, the travel industry is going to get hit if we get into a recession. So I'll really be curious to see what they have to announce tomorrow. The rest of the week, Novo Nordisk, they're doing really well. That's a healthcare company, pharmaceutical. They're doing really, really well. Eli Lilly on Thursday. So we have a lot of healthcare coming out this week. Disney's on Wednesday. That's always interesting. As well as CVS is on Wednesday. I'm a stockholder in CVS, and I'm looking forward to that. The other notable names that are catching my attention, I think those are the names that I'll point out. Compared to last week was just gigantic companies announced last week, and that's what really moved the market. And what was interesting was some companies like Alphabet, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, their earnings, in my opinion, were good. They just weren't fantastic. They just didn't exceed the expectations, and those stocks sold off. So that pessimism existed last week. Coming into this week, it continued. I think a lot of these big institutional investors are getting out of equities. Example being Warren Buffett. He sold $80 billion or so of Apple and just kind of banking some of those gains in order to preserve a really good gain that they have year to date for 2024. I think that may still continue. We'll see how it goes. All right, so we have earnings on tap. It was a brutal day. Let's catch up on some comments. So Mike, I mainly did ads to my current portfolio, added Palantir again. Congratulations. It's up substantially after hours. United Therapeutics, very good. FSCO, I'm not familiar with that. FSCO. So FS Credit Opportunities Corp. That's an interesting play there. It's a small cap. They pay a nice dividend, and they're involved in FS Credit Opportunities Corp is a closed-ended fixed income fund launched by Franklin Square Partners. The fund is managed by FS Global Advisors. Invest in fixed income across the globe. Okay. I kind of get what they're doing. The fund's been going up in value. It's really tanked because I think the yields are tanking more recently. So that's an interesting play there. All right. So that's where you were buying. I also bought some United Therapeutics today. I've been buying into Amazon. I started buying into Amazon on Friday. It really dropped. It dropped into a zone where I thought it's a good time to buy that great company. And I bought more Amazon shares today. I bought Airbnb, Uber, Meta, Google Alphabet. I bought some Ternium, and really, I bought a lot of different type of company shares just because prices were just sold off. So that's where I was putting some money to work. I did, over the last couple of months, you've heard me say that I thought the market was expensive. So I started to sell off some stocks, sell off some shares to create cash. So I have cash, and I would probably say at the rate that I'm buying, I probably have a couple of months, if not 4 months of cash, in dry powder, as people would say, to buy stocks. And I'm going to load up. If it keeps tanking like this, I will keep loading up. I don't expect that we're going to have a really bad recession, a very deep recession. I'm not seeing any big factor like a big pandemic or a subprime mortgage meltdown that happened in 2007, 2008, that is really just going to, knock the economy on its butt. I think it's just a slowdown where businesses are adjusting. So I'm not expecting a brutal recession. So I don't expect the market to dip too far lower. I do expect some sectors like semiconductor to continue to sell off. And I do expect that the pressure on AI related stocks to ramp up. And the reason for that is, okay, AI, show me the money, show me profit, show me cash flow. It's one thing to be kind of excited about the potential of AI. It's another where it comes down to business. Now that these big industries, these big companies are being pushed by stockholders to really show results, they're going to have to be very accountable for any kind of AI investment. So I expect that within technology in particular, you're going to see a lot of pressure on semiconductor. If there's any weakness, it's really going to go down. I'm trying to get to a better view of, here we go. I think this is the one that I wanted to see. So that way I can get to semiconductor. So within technology, I think semiconductor has been just doing great. You see the returns, they've been great. But I think this is where, look at the 1 month change. It's minus 24. So it's really getting a lot of pressure. Hardware companies, now they've been really rallying because of the data center build out. They're under a lot of pressure. And semiconductors by themselves, this is semiconductor equipment, but semiconductors on their own, they're down 19.9%. But over the 1 year, they're still doing really well. But the momentum is to the downside. So those pockets, I think, are going to continue to get hit. Meanwhile, just really good companies, I think, will go up eventually because they're just good quality companies. I continue to put healthcare as kind of like the sector that I think is going to ride through this probably in decent shape and really set itself up to have a good late 2024 and have some momentum going into 2025. All right. So looks like we have Charalampus from Greece. Thank you for joining. I would love to visit your beautiful country at some point. No travel stuff for me other than Airbnb. And I'm in the same boat. My one travel stock is Airbnb. So, and that's a good one to have, in my opinion. So you got United Therapeutics at 296. You were thrilled to see it so low. I think a lot of United Therapeutics. I like their growth. I think it's not the most kind of covered stock, so it's kind of sneaking up on the market. But overall, it's been a winner for me. I'm up on the stock, and I really like their performance, and their earnings are really solid. All right, so we've gone over some sectors. We've gone over the state of the union, so to speak, of the stock market. I think tomorrow we may have a flat day, if anything, just a relief rally of some buying going into some companies that were just too low to let go. Amazon's one of those companies. I think that Amazon had good earnings. If you studied their growth and so forth, I believe they had good earnings. And today they were down 4% in the after hours. Look at that. It's up a little bit. That's encouraging that, hey, we may have a rise tomorrow. It was a pretty brutal day, but maybe tomorrow this stock will rise. Analysts on Amazon think it's now discounted because it's gone down substantially over the last 30 days, down 19.5% in the last 30 days. So I'm liking Amazon at their current price, and I'm going to keep buying shares. If the market wants to sell me shares at $161 a share, I will continue to buy them. And I like to dollar cost average my investment in stocks, and I'll continue to average in my acquisition price on Amazon. And looks like, Mike, I'm trying to get Google. I'm already in Google. I'm actually in Goog. And I think there's a difference. There's same company. I think the stocks kind of behave very similarly, but I'm in Goog, and there was big news that they lost their antitrust case against the government, and the government's deeming that, hey, Google search is kind of a monopoly and having too much power in their marketplace. So we'll see what happens there. I think that'll be a long-term kind of headwind for them. But Microsoft had the same conclusion. It was concluded they were a monopoly. The government did try to control them a bit, but overall, Microsoft never lost its power and its size. They just had more, I would say, more things to contend with from a regulatory perspective, and that was about it. So Alphabet was down 4.6%. I bought more shares of Alphabet. Thank you very much for the discount, Mr. Market. And it looks like it's going to rise tomorrow. So that's encouraging that, hey, maybe this week isn't going to be, a really down week. Like the NASDAQ is down 10, 15% collectively. Maybe tomorrow we get a little rally, maybe make 0.5% back, maybe a full percent, if I could be optimistic. And companies like Google are kind of leading the way a little bit. Meta, let's take a look at Meta. It's up in the after hours, and I like Meta. I bought more shares of Meta today. It's my number one position, and it's just a really, really solid business. It's operating really well. It's very well-rounded, so I'll continue to buy Meta. No real big surprises. If you are part of the community and you watch my videos, I pretty much have been covering Meta for years, as well as Google, Airbnb, and so forth. The one company that has been out there that I haven't been able to buy into yet, and I probably won't buy into this company because I own Amazon now, is Mercado Libre. What's been impressive is the market melted down and these guys really held their stock price. That's impressive. When Amazon goes down and all the big giants go down, but this company that's a $90 billion company really held its stock price. That's very impressive. So although I probably won't be buying Mercado Libre, because if I'm buying Amazon and I already own Alibaba, I'll either have to sell my Alibaba stock to buy Mercado Libre, but I'm not going to sell Amazon. I did that before. I made good money on a sell, but I kind of regretted it, and I'm not going to do that again. Unless Amazon really changes their business for the worse. So that was impressive, I thought. All right, so interest rates continue to go down. That's another reason why I think that the economy won't be that, that exposed, is as interest rates fall, that naturally creates a little more energy to buy a car, to, buy a big ticket item. And the bond market is forcing interest rates down. So that's very good. If we were headed into a recession and interest rates were maybe at 10%, I would really be nervous. Like, oh my God, it's going to be a long time before we get out of this recession. But with low interest rates, I think we're going to be all right. In fact, if we look at the 2-year, it rose a little bit. This is like kind of after hours, rose a little bit. The 10-year went down a bit. The yield curve is still inverted, meaning short-term yields are higher than long-term yields. And that should not be the case. You usually get rewarded for having a longer term on a bond, and this rate should be higher. So whenever this is inverted, it's supposed to mean that we're headed into a recession. But it's been this way for a couple of years, and we're yet to have a recession. So not a perfect science of predicting recessions. So, all right. So as I started the day, I recorded a video about, the mentality that I'm certainly operating with, which is days like these are not meant to be gripped by fear. And, oh no, what's happening in my portfolio? Yes, the numbers are the numbers. Yes, the value of my portfolio has gone down substantially, especially over the last 3 days in August. It's really, operate with looking at the opportunity, looking at companies that I want to invest in. And I used an example early in the day. I think I used Amazon. So I'll use a different company. We'll go with Meta. And Meta, if you look at the 5-year, the stock market really sold it off, and the company was growing their top line. They did have some trouble with the metaverse at that time, but the market just sold it off by 76%. So sometimes markets are just irrational to the downside. And anybody who bought Meta and around their low point, which was like $90, was really rewarded with a 400+% return in less than 2 years. Just a phenomenal rise. And that's what markets will do. So when we look at today's activity of it just, selling off, if we look at the last 5 days, the S&P has gone down 5%. Over the last month, it's gone down 6%. I mean, that's pretty substantial. If we measure from the peak to where we're at now, the S&P is down 8.5%. So we're kind of on our way for the S&P to go officially in correction territory, which is when it goes more than negative 10%. The NASDAQ is in correction territory. That box is checked. The NASDAQ is down 13%. So we are in correction territory for the NASDAQ. The S&P is kind of on its way. And it's not a bad news item. It's a good news item. Hey, great. We can now buy stocks like Amazon and all these quality businesses. And it could be, small caps and mid caps that are really good quality businesses at a discount. So that's my mentality. The money is made when you can buy low and then hold these great companies. And, you can go across all these great companies, look at the 5-year chart, and it'll prove to you that the market will behave irrationally both ways. Sometimes stocks go way too high, which would be my theory within semiconductor currently, and sometimes it pushes stocks way too low. I would think that there's a lot of good healthcare stocks that have been kind of suppressed for the last couple of years. That's where I'm continuing to buy as well. I continue to buy into Pfizer, CVS, United Therapeutics, Catalyst Pharmaceutical are the stocks that I'm buying within healthcare. And Elevance is a healthcare pair. That's about more Elevance today as well. So that's where we're at as a market. I wanted to do a quick live stream just to see where everybody's heads were at. Really appreciate, Mike, you putting up some of the trades that you did today. Anybody else have some trades that you executed today that you want to share with the community? All right. So I don't see any others. If you have any questions on any stock symbol you want me to kind of comment on, now's the time, because if there's no other questions, I'm going to make this one short and sweet. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we have a little bit of a relief rally tomorrow, or maybe it's just flat. I just don't want it to be day after day of just really down days. That could get depressing. If anything, just the mindset of the market's going to be really tough. All right, got a question on RLTY. Let's take a look at RLTY. So Cohen and Steers Real Estate Opportunities and Income Fund. So this is a fund, open and balanced mutual fund launched and managed by Cohen and Steers, invest in public equity and fixed income markets of global region. So it operates across financials, diversified financials, mortgage, real estate, investment trust, real estate. So this is a mutual fund, and it pays a high dividend. Market value $264 million, so it's not a big, massive fund. Looking at the 5-year, it's been down. I imagine because interest rates had really climbed back in 2022, and it made some of these markets less desirable, especially real estate and some of the lending. It made it undesirable because the volumes went down. For example, mortgages, the mortgage finance companies, they had very low volumes because it was really high interest rates that people had to pay on their mortgages. So that's an example there. So I think this could be setting up to do well. It looks like probably over the last month, it's done okay. 3.85 year to date. It's up 5. and that's with a nice dividend rate. So this might be a good idea, especially for somebody who wants yield. But I think the market's kind of setting up well. Lower interest rates are going to help a lot of these particular industries. Mortgages, the equity markets. The one thing, fixed income, it may lower the yield, but it may help this particular industry. I don't have a ton to share on this one because it's not an individual company. It's not like I can do a valuation on it. I would just say, for an income investor, I think this might be a good idea if you understand the fund and you're comfortable with it. All right. Expense ratio. Yeah, I didn't look at that, but I try keeping my expense ratio really down on any type of ETF that I buy. Vanguard was really good at, providing funds that had very little expense to them. All right, DZ. I'm not even going to try to say it. DZ, thanks for joining. I added a little Amazon, Google, and Microsoft today. Those, I can't argue with that plan. I think the Amazon buy matches what I did. The Google buy matches what I did. Microsoft, I think, is a pretty good idea because Microsoft's had kind of a tough month with the stock going down 15%. And it is a very strong company. Microsoft, within technology, is well diversified. They keep growing. They generate just gobs of cash. If I was forced to buy between Microsoft and Apple, I would buy Microsoft every day of the week. Really good growth where Apple's not growing. And their cash flow just is phenomenal. If we look at their cash flow, free cash flow, look at this cash flow growth. Amazing. That's just a sign of a very strong business. They keep growing their revenue. Cash keeps growing. Excellent balance sheet. Microsoft's really solid. So can't argue with that buy list. That's a really high quality buy list. Good luck with it. And then we've got Randy just dropped in to say hi. Added ETFs, SCHD and DIVI today. Cool. Good to know. Good day to buy stocks, man. Good day to just kind of, commit to a long-term plan, which is, buying really good quality ETFs or companies, and then holding them over the long term. Volatility to the investor that is prepared is an opportunity. It's not anything else but that. If we listen to the news and we listen to all the pundits, it could really get, I guess, scary, and and the fear could be an influence. But if we really focus on what our mission is as an investor, what your 5-year plan looks like, you're going to be just fine. You'll see that as you live through these corrections and downturns and crashes, they're really good opportunities in disguise. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'll try to live stream as often as I can this week, especially when we have these exciting days. And I'll try to produce the videos that I think, really fit the time. And I really appreciate all the views. I'm getting a lot of views today, which has been awesome. A lot of encouraging comments too. So I appreciate all the comments and all the views and all the support. Don't forget, we have a Discord, and it's easy to get to. Let me try to get to the Discord channel. I'll put the link here. The Discord has been really cool. A lot of good chatter on the Discord, and I encourage you to look for my server, get on there, and then start, collaborating with the rest of the community. Let me try to get to that 1 second. And here we go. And for the person who asked me to do a permanent link, I was able to do that. So we're good. We're good on that. It's not going to expire. So you could check out the Discord, tune in. A lot of good chatter. Got guys, gals from Europe, Morocco, US, Asia. We've got a lot of good collaboration going on. So tune in. And then one last look is SVOL. So I think I've seen this one before, and Wow, look at that drop. So the Simplify Volatility Premium ETF is an exchange traded fund, mostly invests in volatile alternatives. It really tanked. Wow, look at that drop. So it dropped 10% over the last month, 11%. And wow. These synthetic kind of ETFs, that's what I label this as. They don't really get a lot of my attention because I'm just, I'm to a point in my investing journey where I like individual stocks that I can really understand. I like bonds that I can really understand. And that's a majority of my investments. So I'm good to go on that. All right. I'm seeing that I've got to sign up on my Discord already. Very cool. Very good to see you there. And time decay are brutal in these leverage products. Yep. So we'll see how that goes. All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Tomorrow is going to be a flat or up day. That's what I'm going to be hoping, just to have a day off from this type of exaggerated sell-off. Thanks again for all the support, and have a good night.